so I'm going to be doing this from a seat instead of standing, okay?
Okay, no problem.
We have a brief introduction here to cultured pearls, or real pearls. I got into this in March of 2020 when the pandemic hit and they shut everything down, and I was forced to work from home. I could work from home a lot quicker than I did in the office, so shortly thereafter somebody told me to watch a TikTok video. There was pearls on it. So I watched this video on TikTok, and it was a company, a pearl farm in China, and they had all these mollusks on a table with numbered, and you could type into the comments what the number was that you liked, and pay 30 bucks or 20 bucks for the mollusk, and they would open it for you live on the air, and pick all the pearls out, clean them for you, and ship them to you. And the first time I said, okay, I'm going to try this. And I got the mollusks, so like the two that I have on the table up here that you guys can come and look at. It was very interesting and a lot of fun, and since then I've been learning everything that I could learn about cultured pearls. There's a misnomer for cultured pearls. A lot of people think that they're artificial or synthetic, but they're not. They are actually mollusk-grown pearls with just a little bit of intervention from man when we nucleate them with a small, tiny piece of mother of pearl, or nacre, the inside of a shell. They take a tiny 1 millimeter piece of that, and then they take a tiny 1 millimeter piece of the mantle tissue from a donor mollusk, and they wrap it around that little tiny piece of shell, and they carefully open up the oyster and they insert that in there surgically into the gonad muscle of the mollusk, and then they're all put into nets and hung into water. So we're going to get into this and show you some of these steps and some more information on cultured pearls. I included this slide up here tonight because these are the mollusks that you guys are going to be opening tonight. They're the Hyropsis kumingi mollusk. And the colors, I put this one up there because most of those colors are dyed. There's a big market for dyed everything in the rockhound business, and I'm not a particular fan of it myself, but it doesn't take anything away from the fact that they are real pearls. It's just the last maybe 6 or 8 months of their growing. They take them out of the freshwater. They're in big nets with, filled with the mollusks, and they'll put them into 55-gallon barrels of fresh water that has a plant-based dye that's in there. Pearls are very porous. They absorb that dye over those last few months and produce these colors. Most of them are usually ivory, white, or sometimes a very, very pale yellow. So that's why this slide was included in there. Originally, the only pearls that could be found anywhere were natural wild-caught pearls, cultivated by the mollusks themselves, then taking years to develop. Unfortunately, not all wild oysters contain pearls. Going to the ends of the earth to obtain the pearls resulted in the over-harvesting of them, which nearly brought the wild oyster population to a worldwide extinction. You see in that picture there, that's pearl divers fishing for pearls off the coast of Qatar. They would hold their breath, dive down to the bottom, and grab as many of the wild oysters as they could find, bringing them up to the surface, hoping they would find a natural pearl inside. This is a necklace of natural pearls. This dates back to right around about 1914. And this is for sale by the Concierge Gemstones Gemologist in Doha, Qatar. This one was listed for sale for $49,786 because they are natural pearls. They are not cultured pearls. Now, if those pearls had all been round, perfectly matched and round, that would be $1.5 million for a natural pearl necklace like that. And of course, you have to get an expert gemologist to look at these to determine that it's a natural pearl and not a cultured pearl. And this one was 160 carats and a total of 96 pearls. I don't know if it's sold, but that's what it was listed. And that was 2 months ago that I put that slide. Now, the Chinese have been cultivating freshwater pearls for hundreds of years. They learned early on how to implant a metal form or a mold against the inner shell of the mussel and submerge it in the water for a few years, while the mollusk coated the form with layers of nacre. Nacre is another fancy word for mother of pearl. It's the inside of a shell. It's all nacre or mother of pearl. The result would be a pearlescent figure coated with thick layers of nacre. The most popular form was the small sculpted Buddha, like you see up there, but many other shapes were made as well. Today, nearly 99% of all the pearls available in today's market are cultured pearls. It's very, very difficult for them to find anything unless it's old stock that are natural pearls. Actual whole freshwater pearl production, and again, tonight we're talking about freshwater pearls, not saltwater pearls. Saltwater pearls is a whole different story and a whole different process, and it would have been too much to include in tonight's program to cover both of them, so maybe a future program will do saltwater pearls. So the actual whole freshwater pearl production didn't begin in China until the 1970s, when it flooded the markets with small, crinkly textured pearls known as Rice Krispie pearls, due to their appearance. As time passed, Chinese cultivation technology rapidly improved. Today, whole round freshwater pearls are available that rival the saltwater Okoyas, which are considered the finest pearls in the world, are the saltwater Okoyas, in luster, shape, and smooth, blemish-free surfaces. Maya has a beautiful necklace of Okoya pearls. Freshwater pearls are available in a variety of natural colors such as pink, peach, lavender, white, and shades in between. Some of the most recent developments in China, in Chinese freshwater pearl cultivating, have produced pearls like no one has ever seen before. Intense metallic lusters, a rainbow of colors, and Baroque shapes for pearl connoisseurs looking for something unique. My favorite are the Baroque pearls, the second one from the left. But you see the biwa stick pearls, those are cultivated in small mollusks, not too much smaller than what we're going to be, or not too much larger than what we're going to be using tonight. And they're cultivated in Lake Biwa in Japan, and hence the name biwa stick pearls. And they grow in stick shapes anywhere from an inch to, I've seen 2 and 3 inch long lengths on them. The second one from the left is the Baroque pearls. Those are my favorite. Sometimes they call them comet pearls because they have like a comet tail. The biwa cross pearls, those are also cultivated in Lake Biwa in Japan. Star pearls. Now, when they nucleate these star pearls, they cut this piece of mother of pearl from the donor oyster. They cut it in a very tiny 1 millimeter shape of a star, and then they wrap the mantle tissue around that and put it in. And hence, when it starts to layer after layer, each year it puts another millimeter of nacre or mother of pearl on the pearls, and they get bigger and bigger. Those stars were probably about 4 or 5 years. Underwater to produce that shape. Can you guys see over there?
Yeah. Can't hear you.
You can or cannot?
Cannot.
I'm sorry, I'll be louder. Thank you. It's possible. Over here on the right-hand side, on the far right-hand side, is another one of my favorite pearls. These are Edison pearls. These Margarita Ferra clams that I have over here, they use those mollusks to create those Edison pearls. And they go into instead of going into the outer layers of the mantle tissue, they implant it directly into the middle of the gonad, and they get these perfect pearls with this metallic luster. Those are all natural colors on those pearls. Whether the Okoya, Tahitian, freshwater, or South Sea varieties, pearl farms have spread all over the world. Modern cultivating techniques are so advanced that there has never been so many high-quality pearls available to anyone who wants to buy them, with new and astonishingly beautiful pearl varieties and hybrids appearing every few years. Those are the King Edison pearls on the left-hand side of the screen, and one of my favorites are these rectangular Baroque pearls on the right-hand side of the screen. And there are several different, any mollusk is capable of growing a pearl if done properly, but they use oysters and clams mostly for these pearls. Excuse me. Now, nucleation is the process of surgically implanting the spherical starter mother of pearl bead into the gonad organ of a freshwater mollusks. It is an extremely delicate operation to slice into the organ without harming the mollusk. Along with the bead, a tiny piece of mantle tissue that is cut from a donor mollusk is inserted next to the bead to start the nacre. The implanted shells are then put in netted panels and cared for while the pearl sac forms and layers of nacre are laid on top of the mother of pearl bead. The minimum time in the water is 6 months. I think these ones that I brought in here were probably about 6 or 8 months in the water. But up to 3 years for thicker, more lustrous nacre, and even longer for like the biwa pearls, in the shape of the cross with the sticks. Water temperature and perfect conditions are paramount to the success of a beautiful pearl crop. However, inclement weather can have disastrous effects on an entire pearl crop. Last year, or the year before last, many of the Japanese Okoya farm, they were hit with red algae in the ocean that killed 99% of all of their oysters, and they just lost a huge millions and millions and millions of oysters, and I don't know how many hundreds of millions of dollars worth. And you can see in that picture, they put them into a little clamp that holds them, and they use a little pair of spring-loaded like tweezers that open it up just a tiny fraction of an inch, so they can go in with that needle and insert the seed into the center of the oyster. And as you can see on the left-hand side, that's where they would insert the pearl. And that's the area that would grow and become bigger. And that's just a sample of white. That looks like an Okoya pearl, a saltwater pearl. Here in the United States of America, we have one pearl farm that came here about 20-25 years ago. And it's the Tennessee River Freshwater Pearl Farm. And you can see this is how they're set up right on the river. And the platforms out there, from the platform is where the nets are hanging down into the water. And they can be easily and quickly removed if there's a temperature change or a problem with the water. If an algae bloom happens to come in, they can be removed and taken out so they don't get destroyed by inclement weather or algae or anything else. There's lowering the nucleated mollusks into the water. You see this one is almost like a bag, a netted bag, where they have all the nucleated mollusks, and they just hang them down into the water. They go down about 15-20 feet if they have that much depth in the river or lake. If not, it can go lower. And that's where they'll stay. They pull them up every now and again to make sure there's no barnacle growth or algae growth on the sacs, and if there is, they will clean them off and then put them back into the water again. This is another form. These are little wire cages where they put the margarita ferras that I have here on the table. That they put those in and lower those into the water for the pearls to grow. Here's a harvesting day at a Chinese freshwater pearl farm, and you can see this is what they pulled up out of their nets and brought on shore, that they're going to sit there and open one at a time and pull the pearls out of them. Usually they'll keep the shells, which get ground up into a powder, and it's added to fertilizer, and the meat that's inside they feed to the ducks and chickens and other things that are running around all these farms in China. They got wildlife running all over the place, and they feed them with the meat from the mollusks.
How old do they have to be to harvest?
What?
How old are they?
Those, I don't know, it didn't say. Those are the bigger ones. If they wanted to get a good sized pearl, I would be a minimum 18 months in the water, but up to as many as 5 or 6 years if they really wanted to get the big, like you've seen the black Tahitian pearls.
Right.
They can culture some black freshwater pearls as well and get them that big, but they have to leave them in the water for 5 to 6 years to get that size, and they'll grow about 1 millimeter a year in nacre production. And these are the 3 common freshwater pearl-bearing mollusks. This is what you see most of the time. The Hyreopsis comingi, that's what we're working with tonight. In the middle is the Margarita ferra. I don't know why they put that in there twice, but that's the actual name of it. And those are what I have on the table, and those can produce multiple pearls at one stage. And these particular ones do not always require even to have a seed put in there. They can grow their pearls on their own, so long as they're farmed and fed and properly cared for. And then here on the left is the Margarita falcata, and that's the ones that you see here in the United States in the Tennessee Pearl Farm. Those are the mollusks that we use here in America. I think there was one other farm in Mississippi, but if I remember correctly, that closed down a few years back, so I don't think they're producing anymore. And I think that was about it. Yeah, but that brings us to our oyster opening for tonight. So I'm going to go back to the table over here. Does anybody have any questions? I am not an expert on this. This is just stuff that I learned researching online and talking to some other pearl people and stuff. And there is so much more if you Googled it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I had went to a yard sale and got, they're like this big around, and they look like pearls, but they got bumps on them. And I was told what they do with those is they often will cut those bumps out and use them in jewelry. Do you know anything about that? If you've seen them, would you be able to know
I might be able to look
them?
at it and I could see if I could tell you if I could tell you if it's actual nacre on there and you know, as
I mean,
opposed
they
to
look
something
like
fake.
something you'd get from the seashell.
But I've
at the
never
beach.
heard of any pearl this big.
No, it's not a pearl. It just looks like you know how you see on the inside of a white shell and it's got that iridescent color.
Oh, okay.
And then it had these white bumps all over it inside, like three or four bumps.
It might be a pearl, a blister pearl.
Blister maybe?
Yeah, a blister. I have one of my shells has got some blister pearls in it, and you can come and take a look at it.
Yeah.
They're small, but blister pearls are pearls that do not free themselves from the inside of the shell. They're fused to the shell.
Attached to the
Yeah, it's attached to the shell. And jewelers they don't want to waste them because sometimes they're very beautiful.
They are beautiful.
They'll cut them out with the shell on the bottom and keep it a flat bottom. Use it like a cabochon, and they'll put it in earrings or they'll put it in a ring.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
And so it might be, but I would have to see it, and it could be some sort of an orb from a bigger, maybe even abalone, which is a large shell, might
abalone
go.
colors, though.
Yeah, so
It's
I'm not
just
sure.
It's the iridescent white.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's mother of pearl, iridescent white.
I'll bring them, make sure, but I'll look at that.
All right, guys, who's ready to open?
I got a question.
Oh, you got a question?
The black pearls, is that the shell is black inside? Is that how they
Yeah,
get
that's
black?
the black-lipped, and that's a saltwater pearl. It's a black-lipped, I can't think of the name, but there's a yellow-lipped one that produces those beautiful golden South Sea pearls, and then the black-lipped oyster, and they're big. They're big. They're like this big.
I like the black.
Who's that?
Maxima.
Maxima. Thank you. The black-lipped Maxima or the golden-lipped Maxima produce those beautiful South Sea pearls, which are usually flawless and very, very expensive to get one of those. I have a small South Sea golden pearl that somebody gave me as a gift, but it got lost in my move from California to here. It's not lost, it's somewhere in a box someplace. I'll find it sooner or later. All right.
Chris.
Yes?
When you harvest a oyster like that, are they gem quality or do they have to be peeled?
There's no way to know if it's going to be in gem quality. What they do is they want to find out did an oyster produce the pearl. They do X-ray them, so they can see the pearl inside them. They don't know what the quality of it's going to be until they actually open it up and take it out. And you'll see that on these examples up here. I opened these last night, and each one of them had, I don't know, 18 or 20 pearls inside. And you can see that some of them are not as developed as others are. So you can see that not every pearl is going to come out perfect. But you know, when they're harvesting, when you see that on that picture where they had them all out on the ground there, that's just a small fraction. They harvest millions and millions and millions of pearls in a week, and they carry them out in huge baskets, and then they go to the gem people who separate them all and mash them up and get them all ready to go to the pearl manufacturers and distributors that'll put them on strings or
Yeah,
drill
they're the
them.
ones that
Yeah.
decide if they're gem
Exactly,
quality, right?
exactly. So these, I'm sure, were X-rayed at one point, and they said, yeah, we can send them. Those were very inexpensive to purchase because you know you're not going to get $1 million pearl inside of the clam that I spent $12 on. So let's. Any other questions?
Do the oysters out here, adults, have pearls?
Wild caught, are they good? It's a very, very rare thing because the Thank you.